Hey, this is Marc, Katz, dating coach for smart, strong, successful women, your personal trainer for love. Welcome back to the Love You podcast, where you can learn everything that there is to know about dating, relationships, sex, and men from a man's perspective. And today we are talking about 6 feminine traits that men love. Stick around for the whole thing. These podcasts are always slightly scripted, somewhat discursive. And to give a little bit of context, I'm in a very, very relaxed mood because I am on my summer break, working 2 days a week-ish, spending more time with my family, taking vacations, going out to dinner with friends. And so if you catch a different vibe today, it might be because I'm working less than 9 hours a day for the first time in 20 years. So I hope some of that joy comes through to you. When we talk about masculine, feminine traits, before we get into that, I just want to remind you, I did not invent these terms. We could use lots of terms for it. We could talk about yin and yang. We could talk about how good men need to have feminine energy to be excellent partners. And we could talk about how every woman needs to have masculine energy in order to succeed in business, to be driven and tough-minded. These are not exclusive traits in any way, shape, or form. But for those who are steeped in the concept of the masculine and the feminine, these are feminine traits that guys do go crazy for. And they're within everybody. There's nothing here that is mutually exclusive, where if you are a 150 IQ partner at a law firm, triathlete, there's no reason you couldn't have these traits in addition to whatever's made you a type A player in the world. So please take this all with a grain of salt, because again, this is not the only way to be. These are ideas that I think have proven to be effective, and we can flip this around and talk about masculine traits that women love. And today, as a dating coach for women, we're going to talk about feminine traits. So first one, and I'm going to do this through my own prism, just to give it context. The easiest thing to talk about always is how I see this show up in my relationship. That's what I am most privy to. When I help clients get into their own relationships, I only know what they tell me on coaching calls, so I can't provide all the mini examples of this for my clients, but I can tell you how this shows up in my own marriage. So please don't think I'm being narcissistic by talking about my wife today. If anything, this is the ultimate praise to her. So 6 traits men love. Empathy. Empathy, again, is human. Everybody should have some form of empathy. Some people are better at it than others. In general, I think women are better at empathy than men. Men are a little bit more narcissistic, selfish, clueless, tone deaf, whether it's biological or sociological. So empathy is kind of everything, because it's the thing that's going to extend your kindness to not only people in your circle, but outside your circle. Thinking of my wife recently, she just attended, sadly, a kid's funeral from the school district. Someone she didn't even know, because that's who she is. She just wanted to show support for her community, and knowing that other people that we knew were affected by the death of this poor kid. She donates the limited amount of money she has to charities, which again I think is extraordinary. She's been touched by multiple sclerosis in her family, breast cancer, so she gives what little she can to charities. And on a personal front, the thing that affects me the most is that she offers a ton of validation and understanding for me and what I'm going through. We're all going through something at some point in time. You could be the happiest person in the world, and you still have your own shit to deal with. And so the fact that she really doesn't judge, and she really doesn't attack, and she really doesn't criticize too much, which is not to say that I'm above criticism in any way, but my wife is really supportive, and she doesn't spend too much time making me wrong. because we see the world differently. It's hard to find anybody who's your full clone who's going to agree with you on everything. If you're agreeing on 95% of stuff, you're doing okay. So to have a partner who is understanding, empathetic, non-judgmental, goes a really, really long way. I'm always sharing that one of men's greatest needs is to be accepted, and to me that this empathy goes with acceptance, right? Really extending your heart to other people, seeing things through different lenses, and if you can be the person who accepts him and understands his universe the way you'd want him to understand yours, you're going to be an extraordinary partner, and guys are not going to want to let you go. The second feminine trait that men love is kindness. We could say it goes hand in hand with empathy. I think they're adjacent to each other. Kindness seems to be more of a small acts of service type thing. I think of my wife recently. She's driving 3 hours to go to a second cousin's 16th birthday party. I wouldn't do that, but it's something that she would do because that's how she shows her love, is to really show up. She got that from her family. She'll stay up like she did last week until 3 a.m. to prepare for my son's 5th grade graduation party to make sure the 20 kids have a great time. Last night, which again, I don't recommend this, she was up at 5. I received an email at 5 a.m. because she's looking to rent cars for our summer vacation on the East Coast. She's someone who really tries to lead with acts of service, which again, I'm conflating with a form of kindness. And then there's how she treats me within the relationship. Again, I share this not to make it about me. It's for you to think of, do you exhibit these behaviors within your relationship? Right? How does talking about my wife reflect back on you? And are you the kind of person who does this? And do you do this to your guy? So in a relationship, yes, there's togetherness and there's integration, but there's also the encouragement for you to be your own person. You wouldn't want a guy to clamp down on who you are. And so my wife is always encouraging me to go to your guys' trivia nights and go play poker or golf and go to that whitewater rafting trip with your guy friends. It's going to bring you joy because you spend all your time talking to women. So go. That is really an act of kindness and an act of generosity. The ability to allow someone to find themselves, to express themselves, to be more than just a breadwinner, husband, father. And I think that's the kind of thing that's pretty rare. I think a lot of people are really insecure, and it takes a certain emotional generosity to provide that kind of kindness on a day-to-day basis to the man in your life. The same way, once again, you'd like him to provide that level of kindness to you. And so this is not a one-sided conversation. If I were giving this same exact advice to men, I really could. We could just switch the genders. I could come up with different examples of things that I do for my wife that are kind. But these are largely universal traits that I think lean towards the feminine, where I think women are actually naturally better at a lot of these things than men. Next, third trait is called vulnerability. And Brené Brown is, the all-time greatest on this subject. But vulnerability does not mean you're a hot mess. Vulnerability means that you are strong enough to let someone in to take care of you. You could be a highly competent person and not have it all together all the time. That's, again, part of being human. It is not projecting strength at all times. And one of the things that's underrated in relationships, and maybe even misunderstood, is how men want to feel needed. And if you are the kind of woman who doesn't make a man feel needed, which does not mean you have to play damsel in distress, that's not the angle. It's just letting him into your inner world and sharing your fears and insecurities and allowing him to step up and either listen to you or help guide you through your problems. That's a pretty universal thing. And so my wife and I my wife is sharing her story with me, and she's always someone who's been very, very even keel. Again, better than I am. Not a complainer, not terribly neurotic, not doing self-help or therapy. She's always been kind of even keeled, but openly shared. Menopause is kicking her ass. It's certainly the subject du jour, and she has normal middle-aged woman insecurities about not being the perfect mom, or about aging and menopause and the effect that it's having on her mood and her body, about changing friendship dynamics as we go to a different phase of life and our kids leave elementary school. And, what does that mean for her structure? Because she poured so much of her identity into being a mom of elementary school kids. So again, I want to flip this around and figure out how this applies to you. Right? Do you exhibit vulnerability with the man in your life? And for a lot of people, a lot of my clients, the type A, smart, strong, successful woman, it's almost like a binary switch. It's either I've got it all together, I don't need a man, I'm not going to ask him for help, I could drive myself to the airport, I could grab the heavy luggage bag, I could make the vacation plans and the dinner reservations myself. Right? It's this, or it's I kind of fall apart around him and I don't have a baseline because I'm so anxious, because I'm so insecure, because I've been abandoned by so many men. So it's trying to find that middle ground where, yes, you are still the smart, strong, successful woman that you've always been, but there's more to you than your accomplishments. And the more you could let a guy in on that, the closer he's going to feel to you. It's hard to be close to someone who, again, doesn't need you in any way or doesn't confide in you in any way. Closeness is largely the exchange of information over time. You ever dated a guy who doesn't share much about himself? How do you feel close to that guy, right? I mean, you could feel attracted to that guy, but it's hard to feel close to someone who doesn't share more with you. Women are often trying to get men to share. Men actually like that too. Number 4. Passion. Now, passion is a trait that I think most people gravitate towards. It is not coded masculine nor feminine, but what we all respond to is passion for something. People who don't have passion, it makes us wonder, what is it that gets you going? What is it that turns you on? What is it that lights your fire? And I think that the same way that we respond to confidence, pretty much across the board, men and women, I think passion is sort of goes with that, where we love it if you are passionate about your career. We love it if you are passionate about traveling. My wife, she's passionate about presentation and hosting, and I mean, like her OCD is kind of her passion. How am I going to make the greatest bat mitzvah for my daughter? How am I going to throw this birthday party for my husband in our backyard that blows everybody away, where I made the sangria the night before and I've got lawn games out in the backyard, and this is going to go until 2 a.m. and we got a karaoke playlist. That's actually my wife's passion, is planning and hostessing and creating community. And I'm the beneficiary of that. And she doesn't have to be ambitious. She doesn't have to make a ton of money, but she has a passion towards something. It's what you like to see in men as well. Women like men who are competent and passionate about something, making the world a better place. And so remember, all of these characteristics could largely be flipped over, the same thing that men and women find attractive in each other. But when women have passion, guys are turned on. And it's not just passion for him, which is obviously an added bonus. Next characteristic is called warmth. And it's hard to quantify warmth, but I will tell you, warmth is magical. It is the fairy dust that you could sprinkle on anything and make it better. Warmth shows up almost immediately. If you're a warm person, people pick up on it. You know who warm people are. They're the people who give you a hug after talking to you for 15 minutes at a party and tell you to keep in touch and then mean it. Right? They're the people who allow you, who ask you questions and allow you to let down your guard and be yourself. They're the people who are effusive in their personality and kind of light up a room and have an energy that people gravitate towards. So again, none of this is brain surgery, but it doesn't come naturally to most people. And again, I think in general, women are warmer off the bat than most men, who are a little more reserved, maybe a little bit mistrustful. Men are less likely to be joiners. Women are better at community. But when you meet someone who is warm, you know when you're in that person's presence. And so when you're with someone who's warm on a date or in a relationship, right, they're like a breath of fresh air or sunshine. It doesn't have to be big grand gesture, right? It's responding to someone's text quickly and enthusiastically and at length. It is seeing the positive in people instead of seeing the negative in people, and being a little less negative about the world, a little bit less gossipy. It's saying yes on social occasions instead of being the person who opts out of everything and stands on the sideline. So men, especially middle-aged men, we're going to talk about this in an upcoming podcast, need an entryway to the world. A lot of guys spend all their time just working, trying to, make enough money to support their wife and their kids, less likely to cultivate friend groups and become a little singularly focused. Right? I mean, there's a lot to say about that, and so it's not to how should I say? It's not to absolve men of their personal responsibility for their lot in life, but it very much helps to have a partner who compensates for his singular focus, because she's better at bringing the warmth to her community and bringing him into her world, because he might not have a world to bring her into. Once again, it's not always that the woman is the warmer one. It's one of the things that men often like about women. These are things that they often, and I should probably emphasize this, these are things that men often lack for themselves. Either they don't have it themselves or they don't have a way of expressing these with their guy friends. Empathy, kindness, vulnerability, these are not things that guys usually are with each other. So that's where you come in. And finally, you might not expect this, but I think it's a great addition to our feminine checklist. It's intelligence. Right? And there's many forms of intelligence. And so it could be that we are attracted to what you do for a living and your deep knowledge of it on your subject matter, or your political philosophy, or your ability to do the New York Times crossword puzzle. But there's a different kind of intelligence, and it's social intelligence. Right? It's how you show up in the world. It's my wife taking the phone for me to handle a customer service thing, because I tend to lack patience with such issues. It's researching what we're doing right now. We're researching healthcare premiums and making spreadsheets. Like, that's a thing that my wife does far better than I do. All right, and so it is the combination within the relationship of different people bringing different things and combining them into be something that's greater than the sum of its parts. Your intelligence is attractive. Your intelligence does matter. Guys love it. Guys are turned on by it. And it is not unique. I do think women have a better EQ and social intelligence than most guys. And so knowing how to set boundaries and be people, not in the bad way, being people pleasers. Just, I think women are better at getting along. Guys are better at withdrawing in conflict, right? Like I see it all the time. Guys are just a little bit more competitive and women are a little bit more collaborative. So if you can bring a level of social intelligence to your relationship, right, to help elevate him or meet him where he's at, I think that is unique and valuable. And these are all things that I think most guys instinctively find attractive. So when you're considering who am I and how am I showing up in the world, all of these things are things that, any positive trait that I mention, you're going to want to see that in a guy, which is why I could list 20 traits. He's tall, handsome, rich, smart, creative, empathetic. I could run down 20 adjectives and you're like, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that. Yes, we all want it all. But the things that are on this list are the things that I think men often lack in their world, right? Their work, their male friendships, sometimes in themselves. And if you could exhibit a few of these traits, empathy, kindness, vulnerability, passion, warmth, and intelligence, that puts you just a little bit ahead of the average woman who may or may not be aware of how important these things are. Please take a moment, if you enjoyed today's podcast, to subscribe on Apple, to leave us a positive review, to subscribe on Spotify, write a couple words, say something, anything. We like positive, but I'll take the negative. It's fine. I'm strong. And tell a friend about the Love You podcast, because this is my joy, is taking the things that I learned from listening to women for 4 hours a day for 20 years and trying to share it with you in a way that is non-judgmental and constructive rather than destructive, and maybe just gets you to think a little bit differently about dating, relationships, and men. If you enjoy the Love You podcast, and if you discover, hey, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and doing a lot of self-help and doing a lot of therapy, and my life hasn't really changed yet. In fact, I've been doing a lot of reading and the work for years, and I'm still in the same relationship patterns despite how much I know. Go to evanmarckatz.com/now and book a call. I am on summer break. At the same time, I have a wait list. If you're in pain, if you need help, put your name on my list. I will get back to you. We'll schedule a time to talk, and we'll figure out exactly what we can do to get you into the relationship that you deserve, where you feel ultimately safe, heard, and understood. Thank you so much for your time. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.